Welcome to the Midlife Mom Edit, where you get the chance to rewrite the way that you walk through life over 40. I'm Ashley Malik, and I help midlife moms lose weight and feel amazing using a mindset-first approach to health. After losing 65 pounds in perimenopause, tackling gut health issues, and surviving breast cancer, I've learned that the women who feel the best in midlife aren't the ones who try harder. They are the ones who think differently. Here, you'll find real edits, the kind that change everything you thought you knew about your body and what's actually possible for you in this season of life. You've spent decades raising kids and taking care of your family. Now it's time to shift that story. Welcome to the Midlife Mom Edit. Hello, my friend, and welcome to the Midlife Mom Edit. Now, before we get into today's episode, I want to take a moment to officially welcome you to what this podcast has become. Because if you've been listening for a little while, you will recognize that this show has continued to grow and evolve right along with me and with you. Now, over the past 100 plus episodes, I have heard from so many of you. And what you keep telling me is this: you have this story in your head about what midlife is supposed to look like, that getting older means feeling really uncomfortable in your body, the extra weight, the fatigue, the joint aches, the hair that's thinning, that those things are just the price that you pay for being a woman over 40, right? And after hearing from so many of you, I knew that I needed to help you do something about this. I needed to help you edit that story. So this is the heart of this rebrand. The Midlife Mom Edit is about rewriting what midlife will look like for you, not accepting the version that your mom had, or the version that shows up in your doctor's office, or the version that makes you feel like the best years are behind you. Personally, I'm in full-blown menopause right now, yet I'm still raising a 7-year-old. I have a 25-year-old son. I'm a grandma of 2. Believe me, I get what it means to have a life that just doesn't slow down just because your hormones decided to make a major shift. I get the chaos. I get the weight of managing your family, your career, your health, all of it at the same time, while your body is doing something that feels like it's so completely out of your control. But I also know this: life, it is not going to slow down. There will always be more responsibilities, more things out of your control, more age-related challenges coming your way. Sorry, but it's true. So if all of that is true, rewriting your story of midlife becomes absolutely essential. For me, rewriting that story meant losing 65 pounds in my late 40s. It meant building strength and muscle after a hysterectomy and surviving breast cancer. It meant dialing in my nutrition and my movement so that I actually have the energy to show up as the mom, wife, grandma, and business owner that I actually want to be today at 51 years old. That is what this show is about. I want you to have the skills, the tools, and most importantly, the mindset to create that life. Because I know you can have more out of your life over 40. I know. I've seen it in myself and in hundreds of women that I've worked with. So this is the Midlife Mom Edit, and I am so glad that you are here for it. And I am especially excited for you to be here for this particular episode because we're talking about something that is probably living kind of rent-free in the back of your mind. It's something that you've been thinking about a lot, but maybe you've been too afraid to ask and you don't actually really know who to ask. So today we are going to dive right into it. Now, a few weeks back, I had shared that I had started a GLP-1 and it genuinely shifted my relationship with food. It was amazing. That particular episode cracked open something wonderful. My inbox, my DMs, conversations inside of my coaching program, it all just kind of lit up. But what I kept hearing from women wasn't actually what I expected. So I expected curiosity, questions about dosing and side effects and where to safely get your GLP-1s if you couldn't maybe get them from your doctor. And sure, some of those questions did come up. But what really came up was the mindset and the emotional side. The thoughts that you're having about whether or not you've earned the right to use a GLP-1, whether using one means you're cheating, or whether you've let things get to a point where this is now feeling like your only option. So, this is what we're going to talk through today: the biology of how GLP-1s actually work in your body, but more importantly, the story your brain is telling you about whether or not you actually deserve to use one. So, let me start with the biology, because understanding what's actually happening inside of your body, it's going to help everything else to make sense. GLP-1 is a natural signaling molecule that lives already inside of your gut. So when you eat food, your gut microbiome releases this GLP-1. It sends a message to your brain, and that says, oh, okay, we're good. We're full. We don't need to eat anymore. The problem, and this is what so many women face, myself included, is that for a lot of us, that signal is not doing its job. Before starting on a GLP-1, I was already eating in a calorie deficit, hitting my protein goals, lifting heavy weights 5 to 6 days a week. I was drinking my water. I literally was doing everything that I was supposed to do. And yet I had what is now commonly called food noise. I was thinking about food constantly. While I was eating, I was already thinking about the next meal. And I was negotiating with myself over the cravings I was having. I was second guessing whether, was I really hungry, or was I thirsty? Was I just bored? It was exhausting, and it was happening all day, every day. Now, when I started the GLP-1 injection, that food noise went quiet. That's the only way I can describe it. It just stopped. I actually started joking that I had started spending brain power thinking about how much I wasn't thinking about food, because it was such a massive shift from where I had been. So what this told me was that the injection was giving my body the signal that it wasn't able to produce adequately on its own. That okay, we're full signal that my gut should have been sending, but it just wasn't happening. And it wasn't because I was doing anything wrong, but it was because my body's natural GLP-1 response, it just wasn't strong enough. So that is how the injections work. It's replacing a natural molecule. It's not a shortcut. It's not a cheat. It is a replacement for something your body should already be doing, but it isn't doing it at the level that it needs to be. So that's what's happening in your body. But let's talk about what your brain and your nervous system do with all of that. Inside the weekly coaching call with my students in the perimenopause weight loss method, there were 2 women in particular that came to me with this same feeling. They used slightly different words. One of them said she felt like she hadn't earned a GLP-1 yet. When I asked her to tell me more, she explained that she felt like she needed to lose weight first, or to get her eating more consistent, or have her workouts dialed in before she felt like she deserved to try the GLP-1. A different student said, a GLP-1, it just feels like I'm cheating. Can you relate to that? I know you can, because you've probably had that exact same thought. But let me ask you something. If you had a pounding headache on a very stressful afternoon, would you think twice before taking 2 Tylenol just to get through the day? Would you feel like you needed to earn the right to manage that headache? No, of course you wouldn't. You would just take the Tylenol because you have a headache, and that's what you do for a headache. So GLP-1s work the same way. Your body, it has an inadequate signal. The injection supports that signal. It's not cheating. It's simply helping your body to do what it needs to do so that you can feel your best. Here's another way to think about it. So when you're teaching one of your kids to ride a bike, sometimes you run alongside them with your hand on the seat, and they're doing the pedaling, right? They're doing the balancing, figuring it out. They're learning. But you are there to give them just enough steadiness so that they can start to feel what that balance should feel like, so that they can feel that moment when something clicks and they think, oh my gosh, I've got it. I've got it. This is what the GLP-1 does for your body. It gives you that steadiness, the signal that your body is missing, while you continue to build the habits, the nutrition, and the strength that will actually carry you forward. You're still doing the work. You are still choosing the protein and moving your body and making improvements. The injection, it's not going to do any of that for you. But that peptide is creating the conditions where you can actually see results from your efforts. Now, I also want to talk about the version of this thought that I hear kind of like underneath these conversations, because one of my students said it this way: am I already at this point? Here's what I want you to recognize when you think this to yourself. You are actually drowning in shame. When you ask yourself, am I already at this point? That is not a neutral thought. It is loaded, and it comes probably with a lot of embarrassment, a sense that you've let yourself go too far, that somehow you should have done something different along the way and you didn't. And now here you are living at a weight and in a life that you don't love. For a long time, popular media talked about GLP-1s like they were only for people who were clinically obese or who had serious blood sugar conditions. That approach is no longer accurate, because what happened is it created this idea that if you're considering a GLP-1, you must be at a point of crisis or a point of no return. But the research on GLP-1s is expanding. What we're seeing is that these peptides do so much more than people originally realized. They help balance blood sugar, yes. They can support weight loss, but they can also reduce inflammation in really meaningful ways. And for us, women in midlife, this matters enormously. When we lose estrogen, we lose one of the body's primary buffers against inflammation. That estrogen, it was really protective. And as it declines, starting in our late 30s, early 40s, that inflammation increases. This is why your joints ache, you feel puffy, and why your body reacts differently to food than it did 10 years ago, and alcohol, right? A GLP-1 can support all of that. It's not just a weight loss tool. So when you ask yourself, am I already at this point? I need you to reframe that question. You are not at a point of crisis or a point of no return. You're simply at a point where your body could benefit from support. Those are two very different things. When you feel shame about your body, here's what happens. You hide. You stop talking about what you're trying to accomplish. You quietly quit when things aren't working because the embarrassment of still trying to lose weight and still not seeing results, that just feels mortifying. And you stop setting goals because setting them just means risking shame and disappointment again. And that cycle, that hiding and quitting and going quiet, it keeps you stuck. Not just where you are right now, but you often start sliding backwards. The inflammation, it keeps building. Your weight, it keeps getting higher. And at that point, the habits get harder to maintain without the support that your body actually needs. So my goal with this episode is to help you interrupt that cycle. Now, as always, I want to be really honest with you. Before I started the GLP-1, I had done a lot of work. I had changed my nutrition. I was lifting heavy. I dialed in my hydration. And yet I still had this last 12 to 15 pounds that just would not budge. I also had that relentless food noise that I could not shut down no matter what I tried. And yes, I had judgment about GLP-1s before I started using them. I fully own that. I looked at other people using them, and in some cases, I was like, they don't need that. I was holding on to this idea that you should be able to get there, wherever there is, through discipline and consistency alone. Starting the injection, it was a big deal for me, not just physically, but in my thoughts as well. I started with a microdose, and it worked for a little bit, but then it plateaued. So I increased the dose, and then I increased it once more. And each time I had the same thoughts creeping in. Am I using too much? Am I relying on this instead of doing the work? Am I cheating? But the more I learned through my own journey, the more those thoughts fell away. Because what I kept coming back to was this. It was replacing a signal that my body was not producing adequately. I wasn't bypassing the hard work. I was actually just creating conditions where the work could actually do what it was supposed to do. And here is what happened when I did that. The scale, it finally moved. After a long time of trying to get it to budge and watching it just stay stuck exactly where it was, seeing the scale go down, that was incredibly motivating. It showed me that my efforts were actually working. And that encouraged me to lift heavier, to dial in my nutrition even more, and to invest more planning and effort into my workouts. The GLP-1, it was not my endpoint. It was actually a catalyst for bigger change. I now know exactly what dose I need each week to keep the food noise quiet while still having enough of an appetite to hit my protein goals and fuel my strength training, because that is important to me. It took a little bit of time to find that, but I found it. And best of all, I don't have any drama about it anymore. This is what I want for you too. I want you to have freedom from the drama, not just freedom from the food noise, but freedom from that mental loop of whether you deserve to try something that could actually help you. So here's what I need you to take into this week. I want you to stop requiring yourself to earn any kind of support. You don't need to have lost a certain amount of weight before you can consider a GLP-1. You don't need to have a perfect month of eating before you have permission to start researching it. Support is not a reward for getting close enough. Support is actually what helps you get there. Second, the science and the research behind GLP-1s is legit. GLP-1 is a naturally occurring molecule that your body may not be producing at the level that it needs to be. So using an injection to restore that signaling, it's not cheating any more than wearing glasses is cheating for reading. Your body has a deficit, and this can help you to balance it. And third, feeling shame, it's not helping you. I know that's obvious, but the shame is actively working against you. It's keeping you from trying things that might work. It's keeping you quiet when you could be getting support. It's keeping you stuck. And when you stay stuck over time, it just makes things harder, not easier. You do not need to be at rock bottom to start taking care of yourself. So if this episode has helped you edit your story around GLP-1s, you might be wondering if it's the right kind of support for you. So if that's you, I have a short 3-minute quiz in the show notes that can help you figure that out. Super fast and just a really honest way to see where you are and whether this could be a fit for your situation right now. I'd also really love to hear from you on this. Have you had some of these thoughts? Like, I haven't earned it, or it feels like cheating, or, oh my gosh, am I already at this point? If so, I want you to drop me a message on Instagram at the Ashley Malik. I read each and every message, and I want you to know you're not alone in this, and I would love to talk it through with you. Thank you for being here for this very first official episode of the Midlife Mom Edit. I am so ready for what this next chapter holds for you and for this show. We're rewriting that story of what midlife looks like 1 week at a time. Thanks again, and I'll see you right back here next week. Thanks for listening to the Midlife Mom Edit. I hope today left you inspired and equipped with something tangible that you can put into action today. Remember, you can edit what midlife looks like to you, but you have to put these tools into action. If this episode resonated with you, here's how you can help the show reach even more midlife moms. Hit follow, share it with a mom friend who's struggling in midlife too, and if you're feeling generous, leave a review. Your thoughtful review helps other listeners discover these conversations when they need them the most. This show has become even more than I could have imagined, and it's because of loyal listeners like you who show up and share. You are helping to build a community and movement that will inspire midlife moms for years to come. For show notes, links, and even more resources, head to ashleymalik.com.